Tonight I'm joined by Peter, and Peter had a fascinating UFO encounter roughly back in 2015 down in the lovely city of Brisbane. So Peter, welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks, Kade. Thanks for having me. Very interested listener of the show and definitely heard my fair share of similar experiences with people that you've had.
Mate, it is a real pleasure to have you on here. And I have to say a really big thank you to your mate who put you onto the show, because this is how the show grows. The show is like a community, and we were kind of talking beforehand, and you're saying you had a mate who kind of introduced you to this. And this is fantastic. I love the camaraderie between friends when it comes to the weird and the wonderful, especially when it opens kind of new doors for those friendships. And the fact that he kind of suggested, hey, listen to this podcast, you listen, you're on here. It's the circle of life, baby. I love it.
Well, yeah, that's certainly it. And it was quite funny, really, Kate. As I was saying before, it was a very good friend of mine who I've known for years, and just I wouldn't have, never thought that he would believe me in anything that I'm about to tell you, but I told him, and then he actually had some of his own experiences himself. So it was pretty, a great night to, see him, because he's interstate. And yeah, we just went through our stories, and, he's had some pretty amazing stuff happen to him.
Man, that is unreal. And I love that it's opened up this whole new venture of friendship for you, because who knows how long he had been living with those stories, kind of just closeted to himself. And not only that, yourself with your encounters as well. And the fact that you can kind of find this new common ground in your friendship, I think that's really cool.
Well, yeah, and just listening to the pods, it just obviously has given me quite a bit of confidence to talk to more people. And then it's just funny how many people have actually had experiences and will only talk to you about it when you talk to them about what you've experienced. So it's just, it's just funny. And it's, as I said, only started listening at the start of the year, and just since then, just the amount of people that I've spoken to who you never would have thought had these types of experiences have had them. So just interesting.
Yeah, it's really surreal, because we were talking beforehand, and I don't know if the listeners love it or hate it when I kind of say that stuff, but we were talking and we were kind of saying, like, it's really surprising the people who have these types of encounters, because again, it can be the most professional people in the world. It could be the old bogan down the road who saw something back in the 60s. It could be anyone, and you just don't know until you really start to open that dialogue and say, oh, I saw something weird. And then it's, oh, you know what? Yeah, I saw something weird in the sky a few years ago. It did this, it did that. I don't know what it was. And I think that's the beauty of the paranormal, the unusual, the unexplained, is that it can kind of involve itself in anyone's lives. It doesn't care who you are.
Well, that's completely right. I'm happy that mine all involved the sky. If I saw like a yowie or something in the wild, that would be a bit much for me, I think.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. I love the yowie stories, but I would be absolutely terrified if I ever encountered one in person, because I can kind of deal with UFOs. I can kind of deal with the paranormal. But, an 8-foot creature out there that can literally just rip you in half in 2 seconds that's genuinely scary stuff. Yeah,
well, that's it. But yeah, look, as I said, mine's all sky experiences, and I've never really had a negative one. So I'm pretty, I guess, lucky with that. But yeah, well, pretty much where it all sort of started for me was back when I was living in Brisbane. I'm now down in Victoria. But when I was living in Brisbane, I think it was 2014, 2015, I was walking home one night, and at the time I was living with my parents in the Indooroopilly area. If you or the listeners are familiar with Brisbane, it's sort of southwest, and everything in, every main inner suburb in the southwest has a view of Mount Coot-tha, which is probably the major mountain in Brisbane. And yeah, look, one night I was walking home, and we used to live across the river from Indooroopilly. So to get there, there's a very old bridge called the Walter Taylor Bridge. And that takes you into areas, Graceful, Oxley, Corinda, all out there. And yeah, look, I was just walking home one night. It was probably a little bit too long ago to remember the time, but it probably would have been maybe 10, 11 o'clock. I was walking home from catching up with some mates over in Indooroopilly. And I remember I was walking across the bridge. It was the middle of winter, so in Brisbane, so it was t-shirt weather, as you know. But to get to where we lived, the bridge goes over the river, and it's pretty much a big hill that comes up and hits the bottom of the bridge. And then to get around to where we used to live, there's a road that used to wrap down under the bridge and go back, I guess, call it the south. And when I was walking down that hill, I was in full view of Mount Coot-tha. You could see the silhouette quite easily. It was a really clear night with the stars the stars and the moon were quite bright. So you could definitely see Mount Coot-tha. And I was just walking down, and in the top of my eye, I caught, I glimpsed something, and I looked at it, and it was this really, really bright orb, much brighter than all the other stars and in the sky. And it's like, what is that? And then it just literally started coming down, and I was just watching this thing in just shock, going, what is this? Because it's come down a hell of a way, and it just stopped at the very top of Mount Coot-tha. Didn't go in front of Mount Coot-tha. It was at the very top, maybe call it 100, 150 meters off the ground. And this thing just lit up, and I was just watching it going, what is this? And it was pretty much just like a spherical orb shape from what I could see. And the thing was maybe there for a solid, 10 seconds, and then it just shot off, leaving a bit of a tail behind it at a speed that nothing that I can think of would hit that, up into the atmosphere, and then just poof, just disappeared. And I got home. It's like, Mum, Dad, I don't know what I just saw. That was interesting. I was literally just standing in the middle of it's a pretty busy street, because I moved out off the footpath onto the street just to catch my, get a better view of this thing. And I was like, what the hell was that? And it just, it did not, it wasn't, and nothing negative happened, nothing, there was no time loss or anything like that. It was just a odd thing that I just couldn't explain. But some people might say it was a drone or a plane or a helicopter. One, I don't think too many people were using drones in 2014, 15 in the suburbs of Brisbane. And two, just the speed it just moved at, I couldn't think of it. It was so fast, and it left a trail. Nothing like that leaves a trail.
Yeah, that is really, really interesting, because you're 100% right about the whole drone thing. And, people are going to say, yeah, drones did exist back in 2015, but I remember the drones back in 2015. They were big, they were heavy, and they were very, very noisy.
I can tell you now, there was no noise. It was apart from the sounds of maybe the Brisbane River and the cars going past, this thing made no noise. It was dead quiet.
Yeah, and for you to be able to see it so clearly from a distance away, the size of the light that would have had to be on a drone would have just been completely unimaginable.
Yeah, it was just it looked like it was pretty much just a very bright star that fell and levitated there for 10, 15 seconds and just shot off. But, people might say it's a shooting star. It literally was above the tip of the mountain. It was as I said, 100, maybe 150 meters from the top of the mountain. And then when it shot off, it left that trail that a shooting star would leave.
Oh, okay.
It's not as defined as that, but it still left some form of a faint trail.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, because when you hear UFOs kind of shooting off and things like that, they're kind of almost done with a little streak in it, or it's almost a instantaneous thing. So it makes me wonder if there was kind of potentially some mist or anything like that in that area that it kind of pulled up into that atmosphere as it kind of shot through, because for it to only be 150 meters or 100 meters above that mountain, that's really not that high above it.
Yeah, and again, if you're familiar with Brisbane, there isn't really any other higher points other than maybe the towers in the CBD, but even then, that's pushing it. So, yeah, it's definitely probably one of the most visible points in southern Brisbane, and I'm sure people, if I was the only one who saw it, I'd be shocked because it was bloody bright. And obviously, a lot of people in Brisbane live on the river, and anyone who lived in that section looking from the river up to Mount Coot-tha would have seen it. But I haven't heard of anyone since. So that was the one that sort of opened the floodgates for me. Like after that, I sort of delved into, trying to do a bit of research on it back then, but as you said before the show, like it didn't really blow up until the whole disclosure thing with like the Tic Tac and stuff like that. So there's obviously quite a lot more on the internet to read and quite a lot to watch on, the streaming services and stuff like that. But I can't explain it. It was just a weird thing that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing I really love about encounters like yours is you're kind of being unadulterated by the UFO zeitgeist of the modern day, where everything's a tic tac, everything's an orb, everything's like that. And back then you didn't really have those kind of influences. Like you didn't have those things that you could kind of hang an idea on or anything like that. So everything that you're kind of seeing is genuine. It's unadulterated. It's your own thoughts. It's your own ideas. And I find that really, really great because I feel like it just adds so much more credibility to encounters like that, because again, not a lot of people were seeing things like that.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like it was, but as I said, I got quite fascinated with it after it had happened, and then after maybe like a few months, I sort of died off, and then it pretty much I didn't think about it a lot for the following couple of years until I moved to Victoria, which is where I'm based now, and I started seeing things again. They're a bit different. Like all of them are sort of orb related, but none of them had that like shot off like that one did. A lot of the other ones that I've seen have literally just sort of disappeared into nothing, which is, I don't know if that's weirder or what, but it's been an interesting couple of years, and it's quite funny. Like, and since, starting to see these things, I mean, I started getting fascinated again. And then, when I was introduced to your podcast, it was quite funny because I just said to myself, well, a lot of people have had these types of experiences and they just can't explain it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the worst things that you'll probably ever try to do is fully understand what you saw that night, because it's just one of these things that you'll probably never, ever, ever get the answer to. And it'll just have to be, I think I saw a UFO. It fits all the descriptions of that. And, hopefully we find out what these things are in our lifetime, but I wouldn't hang my hat on it. Let's just say that.
Don't worry. I've gone down the rabbit hole a couple of times on this. I do, like, because I get really into it now. Like every time I sort of have an experience, it just re-sparks the interest in it all. So I always go really sometimes deep down the rabbit hole. Like I watch a lot of the things on like Skinwalker Ranch. I watch all that stuff with like Chris Bledsoe and stuff like that. So just trying to get a better understanding of it all. But it's funny. But like, as I said, like after this first one in Brisbane, it just sort of nothing happened for ages, and I didn't really think about it. And then probably it was maybe 3 years ago when the things started happening again. I just started really getting into it and trying to figure it out. But as I said, like probably my first one when I moved down here was, I've only ever really lived sort of in the northern and central suburbs of Melbourne. I've had most of the experiences have been at night time, but there have been a couple in the day, which are quite interesting, but I'll sort of get into that. Probably the first one that sort of got me back into it again was I was walking down High Street in Northcote. So there's if you're familiar with Melbourne, there's a really quite a large hill that takes you from like the retail strip of Northcote down into an area called like Westgarth, back in towards Clifton Hill, Collingwood area. And I was just walking down there one night after seeing some mates, and once again I caught something in the corner of my eye, and it was a really bright light, bit of a different colour. The one that I saw in Brisbane was really white. It was actually looked quite nice. It was very white, whereas the ones that I've seen here at night time have been quite yellow, which I don't know if that means anything, but this night I was walking down, caught something in the corner of my eye, and I looked around and focused on it, and it was in with the stars. It was a lot brighter than all the other stars. And with these things, it's really hard to gauge distance as well. You don't know if this thing's hovering over Melbourne CBD or if it's way out in space. It could be an exploding star a billion light years away. No one knows, but this has happened twice now, and this one probably happened 3 years ago. And this thing was just there, and I was staring at it. It didn't move. It sort of was like it just formed, and then it just sort of disappeared instantly. And I was like, okay, what was that? Again, I think it was people could say it was a plane flying into the airport, because I was actually looking out towards the west. But for something to disappear that quickly, it would have to be a very, very sudden movement on a plane or a helicopter or a drone. But these things don't typically just disappear like that. It was so instant. But after that, I was like, oh, okay, well, that was weird. Kept on walking, and that was that experience. And then I had another one very, very similar to that, literally 2 weeks ago. I was walking my dog back from the park, just walking home, and the same thing happened. I just saw this big yellow light looking away. I would have been looking southeast from the park that I'd take the dog, and this thing it wasn't a clear night. It was quite cloudy, so in that way someone could say it was a plane or something going behind the clouds. But again, this thing was so bloody bright, and it just was there for maybe 3 seconds, and then it just disappeared straight away. And I was like, okay, weird. And then I kept on walking. I got home and I told my partner, and she's like, oh, it could have been a helicopter, it could have been this. I'm like, it wasn't. So yeah, there's some there were some interesting ones. Like, it's just a disappearing light in the sky. I don't know what you'd call that. I don't know if you would have any idea what that would be. It could just be a helicopter turning its lights off, maybe. I don't know, but I couldn't explain it.
And now, a quick word from our sponsor. Also, are you wanting more content? Why not become a Believe Plus member? You'll get access to exclusive podcasts and episodes that aren't available to the public. Not only that, you'll also get our regular feed without any ads. Head to believepod.com/plus to sign up today for just $5 a month.
Yeah, those are really weird encounters, and it's interesting because orange orbs are starting to show up in people's encounters more and more often. And it seems, I don't know if it's the new style of, whatever these things are that are out there, but orange orbs are definitely starting to kind of come into my inbox more often than any other type of UFO kind of phenomena at the moment. So I don't know if there is something to that, but it's an interesting little note, because the fact that you're seeing these things, and as soon as you kind of spot them, they're disappearing. And
I get a solid 2-3 seconds look at it. And
yeah.
Then it just vanishes, without a trace.
This is going to sound real weird and real wooey, but do you think that's responding to you looking at it? Do you ever get that feeling, or do you just feel like you got a glimpse at this thing and it was potentially on its way out or something like that?
That's a good question. It's something I've thought about a lot, and I think, as I mentioned to you before the show, I've never had a negative experience with any of these things. It's been overly positive, and I always feel leaving, I'm going, oh my God, I can't believe I saw that. How cool is that? It's always been an overly positive experience, but I don't know, maybe it is reacting. Who knows? It's yeah. I know if these things are trying to say hidden and someone spots it, they're probably going to try and disappear.
Well, let me rephrase that question a little bit, because I think I have a better way of asking it. Are you feeling compelled to look where these things are?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It's quite funny, really. I'll be walking, recently, because I've seen a few over the last couple of months. It's really picked up. But I'll be compelled to look in a certain spot, and then I'll just see it for a couple of seconds, and then it'll just go. It's kind of weird. So I walk the dog pretty much every day, and I usually walk him at night. But sometimes I wouldn't even think to look at the sky or whatever. But these times, The one 2 or 3 years ago, I couldn't tell you, but this one that happened 2 weeks ago, I think I just finished listening to one of your podcasts. It's like, all right, I'll look into the. I feel like something might happen in the sky, and sure enough, it did. So it was, that was a pretty interesting one. Yeah,
it is interesting because there's a lot of research kind of going on at the moment regarding UFOs, and it's very fringe level type of research, but about the human consciousness and its connection to UFOs. Like there is a compelling argument to be had that there is a direct connection between the two, and it is kind of. I think it's a point of focus, especially for yourself. If you are feeling like you need to look into an area, and you're seeing these things, like that's pretty interesting. Like if you're looking up there more often than not and you're spotting these things, I think there's definitely something to that.
Yeah, well, maybe. I'm not actively looking for them. They just sort of get a feeling, and I look up and they're there. So it's maybe, I don't know.
Because you said earlier, like you kind of went down the rabbit hole of UFOs and things like that. Like, did you ever go down the lengths of like looking at C5 protocols or anything like that?
No, I've heard about it. I've heard about that type of stuff. I don't know. I don't know about it. Like, each to their own. If people think it works, look, I don't know. It all seems a little bit far-fetched for me. But look, if there was solid proof, I'd definitely consider it. But I don't know. Sometimes I just sort of think about it and think that these things are just unidentified. They're there. No one knows why.
Yeah. No. It's totally fair. It's because I was just curious, because a lot of people who do see CE5 and they claim to see kind of lights in the sky, it's kind of like they are summoning them, or they're calling out to them. And I don't know if you ever delved into that and you're kind of subconsciously doing anything like that.
I watched a documentary about it with, I think it was, what's his name? I think it's Stephen Greer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think I've tried it. Nothing's really happened, but I wouldn't say like I've fully done it before or anything like that. It's a bit of it's an interesting concept, but if people think they're having positive experiences with it, then keep them going. Yeah.
No, I fully agree. It's not really something that I completely buy into. Again, the human consciousness connection to these UFOs that is gaining more and more kind of attention within the the UFO circle. I don't know. It almost seems like that pays a little bit of credence to this, because if you are using your consciousness to claim you can call in UFOs, there's obviously some type of connection there. And I don't know, anything that kind of gives us a little bit more information about what these things are or how we can potentially learn more is always a good thing, I think.
Yeah, no, exactly. The last thing I want to do, and excuse the pun, is alienate anyone who does that. But yeah, look, it's just, I've just never done it. Yeah,
no, I totally get it. And there's a company over in the States at the moment who are claiming that they've invented essentially a UFO dog whistle, where they can kind of put out a frequency out into the world, and every time they do it, they have 100% hit rate on it. So I think the future is going to be a little bit crazy with UFOs and kind of finding out stuff about that. But if people's consciousness are doing this, again, mind this pun, consciously or subconsciously, it would be such a cool thing to find out. Yeah, well, I do know someone who actually does it pretty regularly, and he reckons he has experiences with it as well. But yeah, look, these things have been, the closest I can say that I've been to that is, just getting a random feeling to look into the sky. And that's what happened to me 2 weeks ago. Yeah. For some reason, I feel like it's probably not too random. There's something calling you to look in there. And I would be interested to see if like you continue to have these types of encounters. And I'd love for you to like kind of keep in touch with me if you do have those, Peter, because it'd be interesting if, like, I don't know if you journal or I've anything. Started. Yeah. Literally after last weekend, I've started. Like, everything else I do remember quite obviously well, because there were pretty major things that have happened. But I have started because it's happening actually more
regularly now than what it was 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're journaling because of these encounters?
Yeah. Yep.
That's fascinating. Yep. And when you're doing your journaling, and this might be a bit of a rabbit hole, but are you kind of writing down everything that happens to you on those days, even if you're not having encounters with these orbs or whatever they are?
It's generally just every time I see something, I'll put the date and what I'm doing and where I've seen it, and that's about it.
Yeah, because I would be fascinated to see if you can find like some kind of common link between each of the days, or what events you're doing, or how you're feeling on those days, and see if there's some kind of correlation between them. Yeah,
well, I'll keep you in the loop if I do. If I have any more really out there experiences apart from the ones I'm telling you today, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I would actually love that, because I think there is so much we don't know about the whole our connection to UFOs that it's every little bit of data is excellent to have. Every little bit of data adds to the conversation, and if you are living it yourself, it's great to get it from a first person, because there's no better way of trying to articulate it than hearing it from someone who's experienced it directly.
Yeah, well, yeah, I totally agree. Look, I'll definitely keep you up to date, but I think the fourth one will definitely, I think you'll have a bit of interest in it, because it was a pretty major one for me, and it happened during the day, which doesn't really, it's quite weird. As I was saying, like where I'm stationed for work, we have a view of Port Phillip Bay, and I always see just weird little things out there. I don't really take any notice of it, because it could just be like a bird or something, but just weird movements and things like that. So I don't really take too much notice of it. But this one was really interesting, because it was outside of Melbourne. I was driving back along the Kade highway. So that's northwest. So I was out northwest, and I was driving through just outside of Sunbury. And I usually am concentrating on the road, obviously, when I'm driving. But I had my partner and her friend in the car at the time, but they were asleep. So, and I didn't really, because I didn't. As I said, I haven't really started opening up about this type of stuff I've only just started opening up maybe in the last few months, and really opening up to people who are quite close. So having a friend of my partner's in the car, probably I wasn't ballsy enough to wake them up to show them something just in case it wasn't there. But what I saw was just weird. Like I was driving and I thought I had like a smudge on my sunglasses, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. So I took them off, cleaned them thoroughly. I had one of those like little rags that you get with the sunnies, and put them back on. And the smudge was just still there. If anything, it was clearer. I was like, what is that? And then I looked through it and look at the smudge, but it wasn't a smudge. It was something in the sky, and it looked metallic-y. It was a sphere. And the only way I can describe this, I was trying to think of the perfect way to describe this to someone, is how would everybody know what I'm looking at here? Have you seen, I'm assuming you've seen Avengers Infinity War?
Yeah.
So when Thor goes to make his axe, how he has to go to that planet and restart the forge?
Yep.
When he starts it and the rings start going around the planet, that's literally what I saw. But it was ages, I don't know how far away it was, but it was the rings outside of it it wasn't touching the inner sphere, just like sort of going around in like a clockwise direction.
Wow.
And this thing was just there, and I was just looking at it going, what the heck is that? And I was like, what the hell? So obviously I took my sunnies off to try and see it, and it was gone. I was like, okay, maybe I'm just going a bit crazy here. Put my sunnies back on. There it is again. I'm like, is this affecting like me with my sunglasses? And then this all took about 20 seconds to happen. And every time I take my glasses off, the thing wouldn't be like, it just wouldn't be there. And then I put my glasses on, and this thing was just there. And then, unlike the orange orbs that I saw, this thing sort of just slowly went out of existence, pretty much, and just disappeared. I was just like, what the heck? So I ended up having to pull the car over, and I had to tell my partner, because I could not explain what I just saw. So I was like, oh, come on, let's go get McDonald's at the service station. And the friend went off and, went and bought something, and I just said, oh, you're not going to believe what I just saw. But yeah, that was, for me, that was a doozy. I couldn't tell you what it was. I've never seen anything like it.
That is wild. The first thing that comes to my mind is kind of like the accurate retelling of what an angel looks like, which is kind of like all the wings, all the eyes, everything like that, kind of moving around in circles just like that. That is the first thing that comes to my mind. That is freaky. But
the fact that I could only see it through the sunglasses, I just thought that was the weirdest thing about it all. I've never heard of anything like that. Generally, if you can see it through and I don't even think the sunglasses are polarized, so I can't even use that as an excuse. But I just couldn't even tell you what it is.
I was going to ask you, were the glasses polarized or anything like that? Because I've heard of people not being able to, see UFOs or these craft or things like that in normal light, and they can see it maybe in the infrared spectrum or something like that. But the fact that the glasses you were wearing was able to remove it from reality or bring it into your reality, that's wild, man.
Yeah, it was interesting. The whole thing only lasted, call it 15, 20 seconds. And as I said, I've only just started talking to people about a lot of this stuff, so I wasn't game. A lot of people might say, "Oh, why didn't you wake them up or show them?" I was like, "Oh, I didn't." Yeah, it was a very, as I said, I'm very fresh to opening up about a lot of this. So yeah, that was a really, really interesting experience, because you don't get a lot of people who see these things at daytime.
No, not at all. And did you go down a rabbit hole when you saw that type of UFO? Because that's something that's really out of the norm, because people see balls, they see orbs, they see balls of light, but the one that you just described is so unique that kind of would have made me dive in a little bit on some research around it.
Oh, to be honest, Kate, it happens every time I see these things. So yeah, I did. I always do. It's all. I love doing the research, but to be honest, everyone has such personal experiences with these things. So everyone has a different experience. So you can't, to an extent, you can relate, but you can't really, because everyone sees different things and everyone has different feelings. So it's, I can't explain it.
No.
It's just a weird thing that happened to me, but it's quite funny when I tell people about it. They're just like, "Oh, surely this, you're seeing things, or this can't happen." But I'm like, I'm telling you, it was there, it happened. I can't explain it.
It is fascinating. That has to be one of the most unique UFO encounters I've really ever heard. And the fact that it was just a pair of glasses that were enabling you to see this thing is wild. And the fact that it kind of just faded out from its existence while you're looking at it that's wild as well. How does anything do that?
I don't know. That's what these last few have done. So unlike the first one where it clearly shot off and I saw it shoot off, these things just sort of disappear. The ones at night go incredibly bright before they disappear. This one was during the day, so obviously it didn't. It was quite funny, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, I remember it was glistening in the sunlight, because it was a very clear day and the sun was up, and it would have been maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So yeah,
it doesn't surprise me, especially if it's got that metallic look to it. It's got these moving parts. It's no wonder this thing kind of captured your eye, and the light reflecting off that would have been such a spectacular view.
Yeah, it was. And as you said, I went into a bit of a deep dive after that. So yeah, I always do.
Oh mate, I don't blame you, especially one that's just so out of the norm like that. It'd make you wonder, what am I seeing here? And kind of get you questioning kind of everything. And the way that it kind of just disappeared as well, that's really, really unique in the sense that it almost seems like it's got a cloaking technology on it if it was just kind of slowly disappearing from existence.
Slowly, as in like maybe a second or two, unlike the other ones that were instant.
Yeah. But even so, like that's a whole different way of it kind of removing itself from your situation. That's a fascinating element to it as well.
Yeah, it was an experience.
Yeah, mate. Peter, I have to say, man, those are some pretty insane UFO encounters, and the fact that you're kind of getting them on much more regular basis now is super interesting to me, man.
I couldn't tell you why. Yeah, I couldn't tell you why. It's just it's that one I didn't have any inkling to look anywhere. It just sort of was there.
Yeah.
Whereas the other two, I've sort of, now that you brought it up before, I probably did have I had an urge to look.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but so that's they're pretty much the experiences. They're
fantastic experiences, and I have to ask, like you've had 10 years of these kind of wild UFO encounters. What do you think they are? Like, are you any closer to trying to figure it out yourself, or is it every time you kind of see it, it's just like, what is that? Is it kind of just puts you further down a rabbit hole?
Further down a rabbit hole. I can't. I'm lost for words for what it is. Like, it could be. It could be alien. It could be extraterrestrial. It could just be something happening in the atmosphere. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's just like, you just look at them and you're just like, what the heck is that? And what the hell I don't know if the technology is there to do what these things do. Yeah. There might be, but if they're in the suburbs of Brisbane or the outer suburbs of Melbourne, I'd be very, very surprised.
Yeah, me too, actually. Me too. And what I want to know, because we have quite a few listeners in Brisbane, we have quite a few listeners in Melbourne. I'll be really, really interested to see if anyone has seen these same types of craft or orbs or whatever these things are that you saw, because that one in Brisbane, that sounded like it was quite an intense encounter. And you're 100% right. Like, it's on the tallest kind of point that you can see in that part of Brisbane. You surely weren't the only person who saw that night.
Yeah, look, I don't know. Look, for me, that one was a very personal experience for me. Personally, I was very taken aback by the whole experience. Whereas these other ones, like, I just sort of just in shock. Whereas that one, in Brisbane, I was in awe for, like, I can't say I think I've ever been in awe of something before, but that is probably the closest I've been. Like, I was just looking at this thing going, what is this? And it was so, like, as I said, like, the ones at night here have been like yellowish orange, and like, I don't know, they just didn't really have any emotional connection for me. Whereas this one was like quite beautiful. It was white, it was glistening, it was such a perfect night. Yeah, it was more emotional than any of the other ones. And then the one driving back home, I think that was just a completely different thing altogether.
Yeah.
I don't know what that one was.
Yeah, that is really, really wild. I'm going to reach out to a couple of UFO researchers I know and see if they've heard of anyone else having encounters in that area with that type of UFO, because it's just something that's so different, so unique. And the fact that, the thing that spins me out with that is you could only see it when you had your sunglasses on. That's wild.
It almost sounds fake. I don't know how you can make that stuff up. Like, I know what I saw. And it's so funny because I don't, as I said, I don't go out regularly looking for these things. They just sort of happen. Like, I'm not one of those people who will go out west and go into complete darkness where there's no light pollution and go look at these things. These things just appear, and luckily I've just never had a negative experience with it. So if I see it, I'm open to looking at it more. So
yeah. No, I fully get that. And I'll tell you what, Peter, you'd be the absolute envy of many a UFO hunter here in Australia who actually go out there, bust their ass to try find these things, and you just kind of get this feeling to look up and you see the most amazing things.
Yeah, well, that's it.
But I tell you what, Peter, thank you so much for coming on the show. Like, those encounters, they are incredible. I can't believe your life is kind of building up with more and more of these things going on. And I'm genuinely serious, mate. If you do keep having these types of encounters, please reach out to me, because I'd love to get you on and just kind of dissect, what's going on. If you honestly keep journaling about it, it'd be interesting to see if there is a connection about it. Because I tell you what, I reckon there's a story to be told there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'll definitely keep in touch if I see anything crazy.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Believe Paranormal and UFO podcast. If you have had an encounter and you would like to share it, please get in touch with me. My email address is believepod@gmail.com. Finally, don't forget to follow us on all our social media outlets, and be sure to join our Discord server to talk to other listeners of the show. You'll find all these links in our show notes. Thank you.